created the heavens. Find me now where the grace runs as deep as your scars. You pulled me from the clay, you set me on a rock. Call me by your name, you made my heart whole again. Lifted up, and my knees know it's all for your glory. I might stand with more reasons to sing than to fear. You pulled me from the clay, set me on a rock. Call me by your name, it made my heart whole again. Here I stand, high in surrender. I need you now. Hold my heart now and forever. My soul cries out. Once I was broken, you loved my whole heart through. Sin has no hold on me, 'cause your grace holds me now. And that grace, it owns the ground where the grave did. All my shame remains left for dead.
Somos. You all can be seated now. I'm so happy to have you here this morning. My mom is here today, and she even kind of hung out through the loud music. So thanks, Mom. I love you. So happy you're here. Just a couple of things I wanted to cue you in on, especially if it's your first time at Somos. Thank you for being here and trusting us. And if you brought kids, thanks for bringing your kids into this place. We believe that church is a place that extends far beyond this building, that it happens every day in your heart. It happens between connections between human beings, between the relationships that you have. But while we're here, we try to grow. That's what we want to do, to grow in our value. So there's a couple things coming up that you can do to grow. The first thing is Forward Track. It's basically for anyone asking the question, where do I fit in? How do I belong to Somos Church? What do I do? So it's a time, a place where you can come September 8th after church on Sunday, 12 o'clock, where you can learn culture. What is the culture of Somos Church? How do I get connected? And what does my God-given value look like? How can I be the best version of me, not just here in this building, but everywhere I go? So we hope that you'll come and sign up. There's a card right in front of you. Just write Forward Track. We would love for you to come. I'm asking you to consider it, and I hope you'll come join us. It's going to be amazing. We're also launching 3 new groups this year. So Somos groups are going to be launching between September 8th and 14th. If you're interested in joining one of those groups, just grab a card, write your name on it. And if it's your first time here, just write coffee, Starbucks, Tea Largo, whatever you like. Put your phone number there. If you would like to tell us your story, we would love to hear it. Coy and I will call you, set up a time. We'll go have some coffee, go to Publix. I don't know what you want to do. Ooh, Popeyes, get the chicken sandwich. Who's got it already? Who's waited in line? Nobody in this room? Man, you are not on Twitter. Definitely not on Twitter. Okay, so go to Popeyes, get your chicken sandwich. Go to Chick-fil-A, get your chicken sandwich. Decide. I don't know. Chick-fil-A has manners. Popeyes, I don't know. But they have this amazing chicken sandwich. You got to go. Check it out. I don't work for them. I make no money from them. But you got to trust me on this. It's Hawaiian bread. There's a pickle that tastes like chicken on it. I'm not even kidding. Okay, sorry. I digress. We're glad you're here. Koi's going to come and preach now. Thank you for being the preacher today. I love you. Take it away.
She hasn't even had the chicken sandwich yet. She had you all convinced. She's tasted it. She hasn't tasted that sandwich. Somebody told her it tasted like that. If you could live in our household just a little bit without us knowing it, you would love the conversations that go on. My favorite right now that's happening is mom jeans, as you see her wearing when she's up here. She's a fan of mom jeans, and I am not. And I believe that there's a reason why that fad passed, and I don't know why we brought it back. But because of fashion, whatever. Well, I'm glad you're here with us. This is week 2 of a series that we're focusing on vision. Like, what is God's vision for our church? What is it that God would want us to see, and then give us some fuel behind that and the passion to help it come to be. And so what you'll hear me talking about every single weekend is a phrase of choose for. Choose for, because we want to be the kind of church, we want to be a group of Jesus followers who are known for being for people, not against them. We want to be people who choose to be for them, not against them. So last weekend, I talked to you about how, in order to do this, you have to put your defenses down so that you can build others up. Because I'm convinced that you cannot help someone become a friend of Jesus by making them an enemy of the church. So today what I want to talk to you about is another way that we can think about this idea of choosing for from a different angle. And it can be summarized in one simple phrase, which is bless instead of curse. Bless instead of curse. So look at somebody next to you and say, bless you. Bless you. Didn't even sneeze and you got that. All right, let's go to the Bible. Let's go to God's Word. We're going to jump to the New Testament. The New Testament, you might think is in the beginning, but it's not. It's in the end. So go to the second half of the Bible if you're not sure where that is. We'll go to the book of James. And the book of James comes right after the book of Hebrews. So if you're flipping through the pages, I know growing up, going to Vacation Bible School, I never memorized the order of the books of the Bible. I go to school to learn. I don't have to memorize for church. So I've never memorized them. I've always just gone to the table of contents. I'll make it so you don't have to do that. Just go to the New Testament, like halfway through, start flipping, get to Hebrews, you're almost there. Stop right after that, and you're in the book of James. We're going to chapter 3. And I will read to you verses 3 through 12, which says this: If we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we guide their whole bodies. Or look at ships. Though they are so large that it takes strong winds to drive them, yet they are guided via very small rudder wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great exploits. It sounds like the small person syndrome, doesn't it? The tongue has like the small person syndrome. It's like, I'm so small, I'm going to boast that I am great. How great a forest is set ablaze by a small fire. And the tongue is a fire. The tongue is placed among our members as a world of iniquity. It stains the whole body, sets on fire the cycle of nature, and is itself, listen to this, set on fire by hell. Those are strong words about your tongue. It's probably upset right now. For every species of beasts and birds, of reptiles and sea creatures can be tamed and has been tamed by the human species, but no one can tame the tongue. A restless evil. It gets worse. Full of deadly poison. Now, boys, can you imagine if you had poison in your tongue? Wouldn't that be cool? Like your mom's telling you to do something, you're like, and it's poison coming out of your tongue. Mom, don't tell me to do that. That'd be cool, man. Her face melts. I don't know. That'd be cool. And it comes back, obviously. With the tongue, we bless the Lord and Father, and with it we curse those who are made in the likeness of God. From the same mouth come blessing and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this ought not be so. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and brackish water? Can a fig tree, my brothers and sisters, yield olives or a grapevine figs? No more can salt water yield fresh. I'm going to talk about blessing instead of cursing today. I believe that if we as a church and if we as followers of Jesus, if we would choose to bless instead of curse, then we would make God's love visible to the world. I really believe that. I believe if we focused on using our speech and using our actions to bless the lives of people around us rather than curse them or judge them, that we would make God's love visible to the world. The problem is, it is very difficult to tame one of the smallest members of our body, the tongue. It says in the book of James that like a bit in a horse's mouth. Do you know what that's talking about? That thing that goes in the horse's mouth that allows the person who's riding on the back of the horse to tell it where to go. It's so funny. Last night my kids were talking about trick or treat. And what are we going to dress up as for trick or treat? But now that we have a dog, they want to figure out what can we dress up the dog as. And now the dog has become the thing we have to decide first before we decide what everybody else is wearing in the family. Which, if you know me, I don't wear anything anyway, so I don't know why they're having a conversation about me. And they were saying, how cool would it be to dress up our dog Marley like she was a horse, and then put a saddle on the back of her and a little animal like a jockey, and including the thing in their mouth, the bit in the horse's mouth. We actually need one of those for Marley because she never goes where we want her to go. We need a bit to put in her mouth. But you know what a bit is? It says, like a bit in a horse's mouth is your tongue. It tells you where to go. It tells you what to do. It directs who you are oftentimes. It says like a rudder on a ship, on a boat. This tiny little thing controls this enormous vessel that's on the water. It says like a rudder on a boat is your tongue. It says your tongue is like a tiny little flame that sets the whole forest on fire. It's interesting that we have learned to tame almost every single creature that crawls on the earth, yet nobody knows how to control their tongue. Nobody. Like, it's a struggle for us. And I think it's actually absurd. It's absurd that this thing in our mouth we cannot control. It's like it has a mind of its own. You ever thought about that before? Your tongue has a mind of its own. It does what it wants. It's interesting how in our lifetime, this thing that's not our brain, but it actually ends up controlling our brain because we know we shouldn't say something, but we end up saying it anyways. I mean, it's crazy to think about that the softest, mushiest, one of the weakest parts of our body is the most difficult to manage. As soon as we train it to bless God, it turns right around and curses people who are made in the image of God. We go to church, or we go to Christian conferences, or we go to Christian concerts, and our tongue behaves really well. You all know this. When you go to that Christian concert that you love and you're raising your hands, like our tongues, we use them and we sing praises to God. It's not doing anything bad in that moment. It's behaving. And then we use that same tongue to, hey, so glad to see you. We don't say, oh my gosh, here comes so-and-so and go their way. We're like, hey, so glad. We use our tongue to welcome old and new friends. As soon as we leave the Christian concert or the Christian conference or church, it's like our tongue has party time. It loses control. And we walk out talking about things like, did you hear what he said? Talking about things like, I don't want to go to work tomorrow because I can't stand so-and-so. And some of you are thinking that right now. Talking about, I'm not sending my kids to that school. Have you seen the student population? Ain't no way I'm sending my kid to that school. We use our tongue to bless and curse. We as Christians and followers of Jesus, we bless and we curse. But the Bible has something to say about this. In the book of James, chapter 3, verse 10, it says, listen, brothers and sisters, listen. This cannot go on anymore. It can't. Because nobody goes to a natural spring hoping and expecting to get salty water. Nobody. And nobody goes to a fig tree hoping to get olives. But listen to this. Nobody is going to go to church where they are expecting to be judged and cursed. Nobody. And maybe you've heard it said before, that phrase that actions speak louder than words. Have you heard that before? Actions speak louder than words. Boys, your parents have probably told you this before. Actions speak louder than words. I think it's also true that our words discredit our actions. And I also believe that our inaction becomes our loudest words, like doing nothing and saying nothing. Like that's the loudest word that we sometimes have as human beings on this earth. I think this may be our greatest struggle as the church today. I think our greatest struggle may be that we are so content on not doing anything to say something or to show people that we are for them. So the only thing they know about us are based on the loudest Christian voices that they hear, which is frequently the most judgmental. Which makes me believe that we as the church, you as a follower of Jesus, have the perfect opportunity to make God's love visible to the world by choosing for, not against. By choosing to bless instead of curse. So this is exactly the vision that God gave to Abraham at the beginning of the Bible. In the book of Genesis, like this is the beginning of the story. It's not long after God created the heavens and the earth when God makes a promise to Abraham, hey, Abraham, I will make you a great and mighty nation so that all the nations of the earth will be blessed through you. So I'm choosing you, Abraham, to make you a great nation so that all the nations of the earth will be blessed. That's very interesting to think about because when we get chosen, we're excited about us. I got chosen. Like when you make a team, you don't care about anybody else that made the team. You're glad you made the team. And then once you've made the team, you're hoping you get in the starting lineup on the team. You don't care if anybody else makes a starting lineup on the team. You go home and you tell your mom and dad, I made the team. Then you go home and you tell your mom and dad, I made the starting lineup. You don't go home to your mom and dad and say, guess what? Timmy made the starting lineup. High five. I'm sitting the bench. Like nobody does that. When we're chosen, we're glad that we're chosen, but God is saying to Abraham in the very beginning of the Bible, I am choosing you, I'm blessing you, so that all the nations of the earth will be blessed. But to be blessed, right, somebody has to do the blessing. And I don't mean the prayer, like in National Lampoon's Vacation. I'm talking about the blessing. To be blessed, somebody has to do the blessing. And in the beginning of the Bible, that is Abraham and his descendants. In the book of Genesis, chapter 18, verse 19, God clears it up. He says, listen, I have chosen Abraham so that he may charge his children and his household after them to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and by doing justice. That's the plan. Like that's the plan that God has given to Abraham is I'm choosing you so that all the nations of the earth will be blessed. And how you will do that is you will keep the way of the Lord. And how you will keep the way of the Lord is by doing righteousness and doing justice. Righteousness is not a word that we use in our culture today unless you're watching Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I think is in that movie, right? Righteous. No, maybe it's in the Disney cartoon, the turtle. Righteous, righteous. Remember that part in the Finding Nemo? Yeah, he does that. The surfer turtle, whatever it is. Righteous is not a word that makes sense to us. And so I want to explain it to you as simply as I can. Righteousness in this context means to create right relationships with people by treating them according to their God-given value. Their God-given value. Like God created every person in the image of God. So it's like this. You are a child of someone, everybody in this room. I hope. I don't think we have any AIs in the room. Everybody in this room is a child of someone. And when you as a family, hopefully when you were growing up, nobody could speak bad about you in front of your parents. Nobody is going to disrespect you in front of your parents, I hope. There was nobody disrespecting me in front of my dad. That was not going to happen. This is not happening. And nobody's going to disrespect my kids. Why? Because they're kids. Like they're my kids. You're not going to, like, part of me is in that person. And so we expect everybody else to treat that person the way that we would want them to be treated, like somebody that we love and somebody that has respect because they're a part of us. And God said in the beginning that when God created humans in God's likeness. Like every human is made as a child of God. So that when you look at all the other humans in the world, it's like your brothers and sisters. You're the same kind of person. And so when you look at them, God gets a little bit offended when you treat someone like they're not created in God's image, like they're not part of the family. And so doing righteousness is treating someone as if they were your brother and sister. Maybe that's a bad analogy because some of you don't treat your brothers and sisters that great the way you would want to treat your brothers and sisters or the way your mom and dad would want you to treat your brothers and sisters. Doing righteousness, it means to build healthy relationships, not harmful relations. It's a big difference. Now, doing justice is something a little bit different. It's kind of more tricky to understand because doing justice, this word justice is something that most of us, especially those of us who've worked in law, we have a certain kind of concept of justice, and justice is what you bring someone to in a lot of our minds. It's the concept that if I have done something wrong, I've done something harmful, if I've done something immoral or unlawful, then I should be charged, I should be brought to justice, I should suffer the consequences of my actions. It's like, bring them to justice. That's one way of thinking about justice, and that's retributive justice. You do something wrong, then you should be punished, you get what you deserve. That's how our legal system works in our society. But there's another kind of justice that the Bible talks about, and it's restorative justice. And restorative justice is the kind of justice where you seek out vulnerable people and you offer them help. Restorative justice is the kind of justice where you advocate for those who need some level of support. And so God has given this assignment to Abraham. I've chosen you to be someone who has a great and mighty nation so that all the other nations of the earth will be blessed. And here's how you're going to do it. You're going to be a nation that shows everybody else what it means to build healthy relationships. You're going to have healthy relations with everyone else, not harmful relations with everyone else. That's how you're going to do it. And then you as a nation, after you've established what a healthy relationship looks like, you're going to be the kind of nation that goes out and finds people like kids in our county who need food because they don't have it on the weekends, because they don't have permanent housing. You're going to go out and find the vulnerable people around you in your society, in your culture, and everybody else's culture, and you are going to help them. Doesn't that sound like the way we should live? So that all the other nations of the earth could be blessed? Doing righteousness and doing justice. But here's the thing. You can't do either one of those unless you are willing to bless instead of curse. You can't do righteousness and you can't do justice unless you are willing and able to bless other people's lives rather than curse them. Which to me means that a shift has to take place. A shift has to take place in our church. A shift has to take place in the church's culture in America. And a shift has to take place in a lot of our hearts. And the shift that has to take place is this. You have to stop calling people out as a sport and start calling people up. People need to hear you say, I believe in you. I appreciate you. I'm here to support you. People need to hear you say this, which means a lot of us have to stop using our tongue to hurt and complain and critique and whine and worry and cast all kinds of judgment on everybody else around us. We have to make a shift in our lives if we're going to be people who bless instead of curse by using our tongue to help and not hurt. I think our church has a huge opportunity, if you ask me. I think the church in America today has a great opportunity. I'm in the church world, so I'm always thinking about and swimming in it. Where are we in the church world? I'm coming into the church world as a pastor in the U.S. in a time where church is not cool anymore, or at least not a part of our culture anymore, where people go to church. We're not in the days where you go because you're an American. That doesn't exist anymore. And I say, thank God, because I don't want a bunch of fake people showing up in my church. I want people who want to be here. But it makes it a little more difficult because these seats have to get filled because people actually see the love of Jesus now. Not just because their parents tell them, get out of bed, you're going. And so we're in this time right now in our culture where we have an opportunity, I believe, like it's like the harvest is plentiful kind of analogy, where there's a lot of people who don't care about church anymore, which means they don't know who God is, because church has made them believe that God is against them rather than for them. And so now we get this chance to make a shift for them. We get to convince them that, you know what, God is for you because we're for you, because God is for us. But some things have to change for us. Like, have you ever seen people stand? Hopefully this is none of you, but you ever seen people stand on the side of the road with the signs telling other people what they're doing wrong? Have you ever seen this? It always happens around abortion clinics, which I don't know. There's probably people in this room who land on different sides, and I'm not somebody that likes to get into politics and trying to decide what issue you're on. And I think God loves both people, whatever side you're on, and you have your reasons. But I think all of us can agree that somebody who's hurting to the point where they think they can't have a baby doesn't deserve to be told that you're doing something wrong. I don't think so. I don't think that's the healthiest way to tell someone who's about to make a decision that they probably already cried hours over because they didn't want to be pregnant and now they are pregnant and they're worried they don't have resources to raise this baby and they don't believe the person that got them pregnant is somebody that cares about them and they don't know if they have parents who will be there for them, and so they have to think about, what decision do I make in this case? I don't feel capable of having this baby. I mean, that's not a decision that anybody makes easily. And then here we are sometimes as the church holding signs that say mean things to them, which I don't believe convinces them to not do it. I think if anything, it convinces them to never follow the God that represents that sign. And so I'm curious, I'm curious if maybe as a church, if we could not be shouting at people the things that they're doing wrong. I wonder if we could say to them, we're here to help you. I wonder if rather than the signs that we could take to places like this, if we could show up to those same places and say, whatever decision you make, we're going to be here with you. And if you make the decision to have this baby and you feel like you can't handle it, somebody in the body of Christ, somewhere in this city, will raise your baby. And if you want to have the baby and you're afraid because you don't have the resources, some believer, some follower of Jesus, some group of crazy Christians will put some resources together and make sure that you can have this baby and have it without worrying about where you're going to sleep and where you're going to live and what you're going to eat and who's going to take care of you. We will even show up to your house on occasion, invite you into our house and treat you like family, like you're somebody who belongs to us, because we know you can't do this on your own, and so we will show up and be there for you. Don't you think that's a better solution? To tell someone, you know what, this is tough, we are for you. We may be against you in what we think you're about to do, but we are for you. I don't know how you can be for a baby if the mom doesn't think that you're for her. So I believe that we as a church, we have a huge opportunity as well at just two local schools. I think we have a great chance to bless 2 local schools. And I know sometimes, maybe in your brains, you're thinking, wow, why don't we do more than just 2 local schools? And let me tell you, we don't have enough people who can take care of 2 local schools. And there's no church in Lakeland that has enough people to take care of 2 local schools. Even the largest, I don't care, no church, because there's endless possibilities of ways that you can reach out to schools. And we're connected to 2 local schools. We're connected to Oscar J. Pope Elementary, and we're connected to Southwest Middle School. We're connected to Oscar J. Pope because it's right there in our backyard. We're connected to Southwest because my kids go there. I'll just be honest with you. But we have this opportunity, and last year, Oscar J. Pope improved their overall reading score by 20%. 20%. But they're a D school. And the only thing that you know, if you don't know them, is that they're a D school. And so if you drive past your school, you might be thinking, wow, that's not a good school. They're a D school. I would be curious how many other schools in town improved their reading proficiency by 20%. Like that, I like the good schools that score well, but I would be curious if we went to a school that scored 90% proficiency as a school to see if they could get to 115. And Oscar J. Pope made this improvement. But if you think about the fact that they're a D school, that means there's a lot more improvement that they have potentially out there, which means they have a lot more need for people to get involved to help them make it to that place. So last year at Southwest Middle School, they had several students accepted into Harrison School of the Arts. That's a big deal, in my opinion. It's a big deal. But guess what? Both principals keep telling me the same thing. Our students need mentors. Our teachers need encouragement. And their families need repair. Do you know how much work it takes to repair a family that's broken? If each one of you spent 40 hours a week, it may take us 20 years. But that's what they're telling me, which causes me to believe that there's no time to waste. Like, let's stop wasting time cursing people with judgment. Like, there's no time to waste. People don't need to hear your judgment. They don't need to hear what you think is wrong about them, because trust me, if they haven't heard it from you, they've heard it from someone else. Mom, dad, brother, sister, boss, colleague, employee, teacher, coach, student. They've already heard it enough, all the things that people don't think that they do right. That's not why God chose us to be followers of Jesus. Jesus calls us to be a blessing. God chose us to be a blessing. Like, that's completely different than cursing. God chose us to be a blessing. God chose you to bless instead of curse. Because when you do, you get to make God's love visible to the world. And when people can see God's love, then they can visualize the hope they've been searching for. So the question is, will you choose for, not against? Will you choose for? Will you? Stand with me. I visit my daughter's school at Southwest Middle School every single Monday, and I have lunch, and I've told you because I want to intimidate those boys in the room and make sure they know who I am. They let me carry these guns in the room. They don't even stop me. They don't even stop me. Oh, that was good. You know, you like that, Paul. That was good. That's right. It's loaded. Mm-hmm. So I go there every Monday, and I'm getting to know the principal really well and some of the other staff, and I'm talking to them, and somehow I offered some ways I could help, but now I'm helping coach cross country. Because my daughter decided to join, and there ain't no way I'm letting her go to cross country practice without me. And so I go to cross country practice for the first time, and it's a mess. Like, it's a mess. First lap around the track, one of the girls couldn't make it, and we had to call 911. No joke. She was laying on the ground, and we can't let this girl die right now. This cannot happen. Not on my first day, maybe the second day, but not on the first. So we called, and they came, and they took care of her while the rest of us kept running laps around the track. But the head coach, who somebody else is telling her what to do, and so I'm kind of listening in. She says, I just need you to run an 8-minute mile. Any of you ever ran a mile? I mean, you don't have to raise your hand, but 8 minutes is not fast, I wouldn't say, but it's not slow. It's fast enough. So she said, all you have to do is run 8 minutes. If you run 8 minutes, then we'll place as a team. This is practice number 3, by the way. I'm thinking to myself, you can't be telling the kids this. Let's just make sure they finish. And so I offered, Teresa, I'll pace the students. I'll pace the team running on the track. I'll make sure it's a 2-minute lap every single time. And there's this one kid in the team, and you could just tell he's just like a rabbit. You can tell he's ready to just take off running as fast as he can. And I look at him and say, listen, man, this is not a sprint. You got to go slow on this. Okay, I got you. And he takes off running. I'm like, go slow. You're not going to make it the whole way. There's no way possible you're going to make it. About 3/4 of the way before the other girl fell out, he stops and starts walking, and we pass him. And by the 3rd lap, we lap him. And so by that point, the 3rd lap, a lot of the kids had already dropped back because it's faster than you think. But I have 2 boys running behind me, 2 little boys. I mean, by little, they are little. They this tall right here, like they could be in my armpit right now. And they're running behind me, and this is what they sound like. I'm like, you guys all right? And they're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, doesn't sound like you're good. I said, if you can stay with me, you'll be in 8-minute mile. You got this. And so we keep running, and we're coming around that 3rd lap, and the one boy says, how many more laps we have? I said, boy, you're in middle school. You can count. You should know we're on lap 3. I didn't say that. I said, we're on lap 3. He's like, are you sure we're not on lap 4? I said, we are not on lap 4. I'll show you on my clock right here in my hand. He said, okay. I said, can you make it? He said, I think so. So we're running, and we turn in that last lap, and we're running, and then I only hear one. The other one had dropped back. He couldn't stay with us anymore. And I look back at the one boy standing with me, running with me. I said, can you make it? He said, I don't know. And we keep running a little bit. I said, just keep coming. Come on, let's go. Let's go. You can do this. Take big breaths. You're going to be right here with me. We can do one more lap. We're almost there. And we get about halfway around that lap, and that little boy, I hear him say, oh, man, My legs are telling me I need to walk. And I said, don't listen to your legs. And so we keep running, and he's like, and we get to that last 100 meters. I'm like, come on, man, you're 100 meters away. We can finish this in 8 minutes. You can do this. And he's like, okay. And we're running, and we make it all the way, and we stop. 8-minute mile. And he walks over so tired and sits on the stands. And I'm like, you can't sit down after you run an 8-minute mile. You have to stand up. You're going to get hurt. And he comes over and he's, what's your name? He tells me his name. He goes, wow, I can't believe I did this. He's like, I have cystic fibrosis. Yeah. And I was like, what in the world does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Tell me what that means. And so I may have gotten it wrong, doctor, but this is what he told me whatever he has means. I think it's cystic fibrosis. What does that mean? I got a bunch of fluid on my lungs. All right, I just got myself in trouble making you run an 8-minute mile. I patted him on the head and I said, man, I'm so proud of you. The only reason I think, not me, the only reason why he made it that far is because somebody was saying, come on, let's go. Come on, let's go. You can do this. And as the church, we get to do that to the world. I mean, what an exciting adventure is we get to do that to the world. People who legitimately have problems, and they can name them. And they don't tell you at first when they start running with you. At work, they don't, hi, my name is Jared, and I have gout. Okay, they don't say that. Nobody does that. It takes some time, but they'll start running that race with you. And we get to do that as the world. When we go to Oscar J. Pope or Southwest Middle School, we don't meet the principal and they say to us, hi, my name's Miss Jackson, and we have a bunch of problem kids. They don't do that. You run with them a little bit, and then you find out where they're starting to get tired. And then you have to look at them and say, come on, let's go. You can do this. Come on. We're going to do this. You can do this. You get to do that to the world. Come on, people. That's an adventure of life. I don't want to sit on my butt and live my own life and not care about anybody else. But you get to do that. And the only way you can do it is when you bless instead of curse. So let's pray. God, we are grateful that you chose us. And by us, we mean humanity. But especially those who know who you are. Like we're the chosen ones, not because we're special, but because we know we're chosen. Everybody else just doesn't know it yet. We get to tell them, you're chosen. God chose you. Jesus chose you. The creator of the earth chose you. And nobody's a misfit. Nobody has to be left out. Like everybody is chosen. We get to look at them and say, come on, let's go. We're for you. We're not against you. The struggles that you have, we want you to succeed. We want you to win. We want you to grow. We want your marriage to work. We want your children to be healthy. We want you to be blessed in your career. We want you to grow your resources. We want you to have a huge group of friends. We want you to be in a church where you know you are loved. We want your family to expand and to break cycles that have happened for generations. We want you to love who you are. We want you to look in the mirror and be proud of what you look like. We want you to wake up every single morning believing that there's something new in your life that God wants to do to make a difference in the world. That's what we want for you. So God, help us be that church. Help us be the church who blesses instead of curses, who cares about all the rules that we think that we have to follow, because if we tell you those things and you don't believe that we're for you, they don't matter anyway. I'm convinced, God, that when people know that we're for them, then they might believe that you are too, and that you are the one that leads them to righteousness themselves, not us. You're the one that teaches them justice in the world, not us. We're the ones that just tell them you can do this. So God, help us be that kind of church. And if there's someone here today, that needs to know that you have chosen them, that you want to bless them, let them pray this prayer. God, bless my life, please. I am sorry when I have cursed you. lead me in your way. And together we will celebrate as the body of Christ all the races that we're running. And then you will say, well done, well done, well done, good and faithful servants. And everybody said together, amen.